and welcome everyone to a special Pro and Noob. As I told Jarod last year, he cannot escape Evangelion.
No, I can't. And I did this one to myself because I immediately,
yes.
I was like, I found out and I was like, oh, we got to go back. We got to go back to Tokyo 3. We're not done yet.
No, you can never leave this show, Jarod. It will stick with you forever.
I don't think I want to at this point.
But of course, as always, Mitch 692, Jarod, whichever fucking side he's on, I don't know, I don't remember, and I don't care to remember at this point. But we are joined by a very special guest. Husbands? I fucked up my own joke there. Jarod's husbando. Because Jarod is the waifu.
That's right.
I'm the waifu.
Very own.
Like a
Scotty Jayro.
I am so privileged to be here, Mitch and Jarod. Welcome. I'm glad to be new in this this sphere, only because Jarod and I have a very storied history, and I don't know if I've ever been referenced in this show yet, but if I have,
many a day.
Okay, don't worry.
I don't think Jarod's capable of actually saying anything without mentioning Scotty.
Listen, I drag all of like the Star Wars cape shit, sphere lore kicking and screaming onto this show because I refuse to not let anything I do not be like part of my own personal canon. So everything has to be referenced. It's constant fan service.
That's beautiful because I know anyone that sticks with you and knows what you're actually talking about, they'll understand, that I'm part of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Like, it's kind of weird. I've collaborated more with Jarod on one-off things than I've collaborated probably with my own co-host. So that's like I've been doing like 6 years of BOMBADcast. Jarod is essentially the third host. Like if you look at it like numerically, he's been on more than a whole year's worth of episodes. We did the math on that. Right? Isn't that true? 50 plus episodes. So like,
I think it was just over 40.
Okay.
But I don't know if that was counting like me calling in and shit like that.
Yeah. But it says something about how well we work together and what we like doing together.
Absolutely.
So no, to be on here is very surprising. And I was telling y'all before we started recording, I have never watched a single bit of this series. Not just Neon Genesis Evangelion, but Pro and Noob as well. So to be on here to talk about this with an expert, a noob, and I don't know what I would call me. Noob I guess plus. I'd be an atom embryo, and I'd be whatever the fuck that was. But a lot of this is gonna be me being like, okay, I let's pick this apart because I don't understand it, and covering this whole show in this discussion is going to be interesting. So I'm happy to be here. I'm touched that y'all had me on. It's exciting. I can't wait.
So you are our first guest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you were the first, not the two of us person to come on the show.
Perfect. As it should be.
I mean, before we get into like the meat and potatoes of Evangelion as a whole, I mean, Scotty obviously plugs, like you mentioned, BOMBADcast. You watching Evangelion was because you're going to Celebration in Japan. We're hoping I make it. We don't know. Time will tell. Hopefully I'm there. But, you have a very big panel coming up. So plug BOMBAD, plug your panel. Let the lovely people know what you're about. Obviously, you come from Star Wars land with me.
Yes.
So let everybody know.
So in terms of panel stuff, I think that's the one thing I'm most excited to talk about is I'm hosting a panel at Star Wars Celebration dealing with midichlorians. It's called Midichlorians, an alliance of science, mythology, and magic. And for the most part, this panel is rooted in the idea that midichlorians are so much more than what they're originally perceived to be and how they're originally portrayed in the Phantom Menace. And I think they're portrayed beautifully there. But this is kind of an analysis on like midichlorians as a whole and how they represent so much more than just, Anakin and the foundations of Anakin. And it goes deeper into what's the science behind it, right? What's the mythology behind it? How there's a little bit of magic in there with George Lucas' creation of it. And, it's going to be a good panel. It's so if anyone that's listening or watching, it is April 18th, Friday, April 18th at 3 p.m. on the university stage. So it is locked and loaded. We're here to go. And this all stemmed from a video that I uploaded to our YouTube channel, the BOMBADcast, which is primarily it's a fun live show experience. Me and my co-host Jerry, the Canon Junkie, go live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about weird things, niche things in Star Wars. But most importantly, we have fun with the franchise and the things that the franchise represents. And sometimes we get really serious about certain stuff, like midichlorians, for example. And we talk about a lot of very difficult things, as well as a lot of fun things, a lot of very funny, goofy things. We'll just watch VHSs, and that's literally what we do. Like I have, let's see, here's one. I literally have this one that I was watching yesterday. This one says legendary tracks, unforgettable moments, NASCAR video VHS. So it's just, how serious can you get? But we have a lot of fun. And that's pretty much the gist of everything that encapsulates who I am and what we do. And that's how you stay BOMBAD. That's why Neon Genesis Evangelion is BOMBAD, because it's deep, it's silly, it's got its moments. There's cicadas. I don't know. I love it.
There's lots of cicadas.
There's lots of cicadas. And
I'm just going to jump in there. Is your panel being streamed for celebration?
I am going to do the streaming myself, or someone will be streaming. It is not one of the ones that are going to be accessible through, like the
Star Wars YouTube channel.
To my knowledge, they may have cameras rolling. I have no idea. This may be a different way of setting it up, but no, it is going to be on a much smaller stage. I hope maybe one day I'll be on a big stage, but it's probably coming off the heels of the best day at the convention. So it's going to be a great day.
Regardless, even if it doesn't get live streamed in any capacity, it will be uploaded to BOMBADcast.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
No, but that's what excited me so much. Like when Scotty said he was going to start watching the show. Because again, like I said, you were kind of on this warpath of going I want to kind of consume a lot of seminal works from Japan before I go. And you were, obviously we're all in a group, you, me, and a bunch of our friends are all in a group chat. And I was talking a lot about watching Evangelion as we were doing the main Pro and Noob season. And you were like, I'm going to give this a try because, obviously this is a legendary show. It's kind of the one thing people know about it is that it is legendary in terms of scope and scale and cultural impact. And when you Scotty, specifically were like, I'm going to watch Evangelion, I was like, holy shit, Scotty, Scotty is going to fuck with this so hard.
Oh,
it's Scotty is going to be so into this damn show. It is unbelievable because it is like your whole take on because your day job science teacher.
Yes.
It is mystical and it is scientific and it is so deeply rooted in, themes about humanity and symbionts. And I was like, Scotty midichlorians Jayro is, he's going to like this show a lot. And when you confirmed that you were in love with this show, Mitch, I'm like, we need to have him on. I was
how long? How many episodes in did it click?
Honestly, after the first 3, it was when the Berserk mode happened in the first one. I was like, I said, this is so much more than I thought it was. And whenever you started to figure out that the Avas were more than just mechs per se, and you realize they had their own individuality and you would assimilate into one. And when they started to get into the philosophy of so many different things in this show, that's when I kind of fell head over heels for it. And I like that it wasn't westernized. I like that it's kind of full of despair, because the hero's a teenager and we're so used to the Harry Potter, Luke Skywalker treatment. They're just, 19 years old and they'll be okay, but Shinji's such a accurate representation of a kid having to deal with this insane responsibility. I don't know. That's the part that's been getting me super duper excited. Like, if I'm going to be real with you, that's kind of where it was like, oh hell yeah, I like this. This is different.
Oh, that excites me so much and makes me so happy. What were you about to say, Mitch? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I think the whole child soldier, the weight of expectations on kids angle is really not what gets people into it at the start. Because as I said countless times when we were doing it, I was like 13 when I watched it, so I was only a year younger than Shinji, really. But like, you don't pick up on that. It's only when you get older, it's like, oh, I actually start to realize and appreciate what that whole thing's trying to say. That's of course,
yeah. I mean, to anchor that, to Star Wars land, like. That was the revelation a lot of people had with the Ahsoka series. Like when we saw like a live action 14-year-old girl like serving in battle and like holding a man's hand as he kind of faded away after like being mortally wounded. Like it sets in where it was like they sent a kid into this shit. And I think there's something really affecting about being an adult and going like, this is kind of unacceptable. This is kind of wildly fucked up. That the adults who are supposed to be kind of shepherding these children are allowing them to be a part of this world too big for them. Scotty, we normally when we do this, we kind of jump right into my notes after I crash out for 5 minutes about what Mitch put me through.
Once he comes out of the Mind Palace.
Yeah,
we haven't had for a long time.
We haven't had me going full Mind Palace in a minute.
No. I can Mind Palace. You want to Mind Palace?
Scotty, when you go back and actually watch the show, because you said you avoided it because you didn't want like what we said to color what you have to say here. You're going to love one of the intros that Mitch did, because it's me trying to theory craft really hard, and I just fully take off my glasses. I even think I took off my headphones, and I just put my hands on my face, and I said, "I'm going into my Mind Palace," and he edited in the Sherlock scene.
That's amazing.
Grabbing stuff, but edited my voice over it, and all of the names I came up with for characters and I couldn't remember their name. I just kept calling Gendo Ikari just Commander Fuckface, and it's Fuckface, Rei Ayanami, Magic Ava Juice, Flesh Mechs.
There is no fucking baby.
Yeah, there is no fucking baby. But you said you have notes. You also have the long string of conversations, not even conversations, just screaming ideas at me.
Okay. I'll give you some context too. So I know Jarod mentioned it from the top. I am an educator, and I'm in Louisiana. So some holidays are weird. Right now, currently I'm on Mardi Gras break. So that's what we get to Louisiana. You get a week off for it.
That's cool.
It's wild. But then again, some people's spring breaks are 2 weeks. We only get 1 week for our spring break. All that being said, I watched this episode the Friday our winter break started. So I spent the 2 weeks of our Christmas, New Year's break watching 4 episodes a day, right? And so then it's past New Year's. My break, I think, started right back on a Monday. It ended on a Sunday, started on Monday. That Sunday night, I watched End of Evangelion. And so I knew I had a couple more weeks to watch all the movies as well.
Rebuilds, yeah.
Yes, the rebuilds. And then I finished the last rebuild January 12th. So I consumed all of Evangelion in a month. All of it. Every aspect except for the manga, obviously, and they're, the limited video game runs they've had. And I haven't been as how do you say? And on top of this, we had Skeleton Crew, we had a bunch of Star Wars stuff as well. It wasn't just this, I was seeing movies, and the fact that I could squeeze this anime in is kind of why I wanted to watch it, because 26 episodes is very nice. That is, and 26 episodes and 5 movies. That's kind of easy, if we're going to be honest with you. My buddy Michael, he started me watching Death Note. Death Note's great. I think it's pretty cool. I'm on the 10th episode, but I still got 27 more episodes to go before I get to finish it. So I don't know. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to sit there and watch Naruto and Boruto and watch all
and
800. I'm not going to watch all 800 episodes of that shit. Sorry, I'm just not doing that. That just feels unsatisfying. And this, however, was fantastic. So I had the transcripts. I have the transcripts, my lord.
The sacred texts.
The sacred Jedi text.
If I could hit the hat trick, Scotty has the documents. Anyway.
So I'm watching it and I'm not really texting Jarod. Okay. So that's giving you some context. I'm kind of just taking it all in. He's like, what do you think? How do you feel about it? And
teeing the whole time. Because like I said, like Mitch. No, Scotty's brain is going to start oozing out of his ears any day now.
So I guess I can't find our text throughout the show, but I found our text for the end of Evangelion. Okay, that's there's one that's really funny. I'm sorry. This is gonna get vulgar. Okay, here it is. Shinji's angel just got power back. Good fuck this show. It's eating the angel. God damn it, Jarod. And he said, I'm so happy you love the show as much as I knew you would. You've always given good advice, but this is your best yet. And he tells me about, don't worry about the Rebirth movie. And he tells me where to watch the 4 on Prime. I said, so Shinji's Ava just became sentient and ate the fucking angel. And then he says, Unit 1, blah, blah. I said, man, fuck, this is wild. I can't even explain this to Katie. I just don't even know. And then Jarod said, I had the same problem. I had no idea where to put what was happening into words. And I said, Shinji assimilated to the Ava? This fucking show, chat. And he said, ha, 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 I love this. And then he said, it's about to get so weird. My next message is this. And sorry for the vulgarity. It says, titless teenagers and adults. And then we talk about the weird sex stuff, and we'll talk about that here. And I said, there's like 100 Rey clones. This show became a child psychoanalysis show within 2 episodes. Good fuck. Hold on. I'm locked in. I just got to keep this going before my gig in 2 hours. This 5th child is taking a shower. Shinji? I'm going to listen when I'm in the shower.
I sent you a couple audio messages.
I said, this fucking 5th child is not human. I said, oh, he has the soul of Adam. And he said, the kid's fucking scary. He said, the theme of who pilots themselves is simply amazing. I said, who pilots your person? Who pilots your Ava? Are you an Ava for someone else? Who is this version of you that lives in other people? So I'm like having the philosophical breakdown right here. Just truly... Oh my God!
We had Evangelion crashing out. Which, if you're watching the show and you don't have like a mild psychotic break at least a couple times, I don't think you're paying attention.
Just like Shinji, this next one was great. I said, "What kind? Wait!" I said, "Wait, what kind of fucking ending was that?" Congratulations. That's nice. I said, and then this is literally the next day. This movie is fucking bonkers. The proto embryo. I said, this fucking thing, man. What the fuck, man? This live action stuff was amazing. I said George Lucas would fuck so hard with this show. And then the soundstage fight part. What did I say? Let's see. All I saw was a theater of Japanese people. Oh, that was awesome. That's one thing I really want to talk about. I love how it cut to that and the shots of the Japanese city. So he then I then wrote all my responses to, and these tiles are ridiculous. I wrote all the responses to Evangelion. You are not alone. 1.11. I wrote all those. I'm not going to go over all those. The show itself was just. I mean, goodness, man. It hit on so many levels. I feel like I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, that's
what you're here for. That's why we're here.
That's what you're here for. The point is, put Scotty through the ringer because I need to pass this on to somebody else.
I can't explain this to anyone either. This is the only time I've talked about it with people. This is it. I need to get this out.
Dude, that was the same thing with me. I was like, I can only talk about this one fucking place.
Anyway. It's what it does to people. It's what it does.
Why did you do this to him then, you dick?
It was like, what was pure fun? When he asked me that exact same question, I said that was the reason why. Because that reaction.
That's beautiful. Because this show is fantastic. Is this your favorite show? Is this it?
Oh, yeah. This is like my favorite thing of all time.
And so did you watch it? No, I don't know how old you are. You didn't watch it as it aired, right? There's no way.
No, it started in 96. I watched it in like 2002. I was like 13 at that point.
That's solid.
Scotty, again, like you're the guest, and we're just gonna kind of like stream of consciousness with you and what feels right. You know, we're on this like weird throuple first date of having somebody on Pro and Noob for the first time. The throuple is normally me, Scotty, and Alden, so like we're changing things up a little bit.
Yes.
Laugh.
I did. You got the dad laugh at.
That's all I can ask for. Scotty, you pick like where you want to start, like thematically, with like how you were feeling with the show, what the show was making you feel, like any of like the stream of consciousness, like hilarious cavalcade of texts.
Start with the intro. There you go.
Okay, I'll say this: greatest opening theme of anything ever. I mean, it's like Simpsons level, just like catchiness. You know, it's amazing. And I've listened to it in the car maybe once a day, just since watching it. And I love the version that's on Apple Music, the little bit longer version with the, with a little guitar breakdown. Like if I could find this on a vinyl record, I'd buy it. Right. But musically, I mean, amazing editing, amazing opening. The thing I will say about the artistry of it all, the show has done a lot for me in terms of because I edit videos and, I've shot a couple of short films in my lifetime, and for the most part, I would love to get back into it. But this show taught me a lot more editing tricks than I realized it would. Even if something flashes in the second, your subconscious mind already registers it. So when you're watching the opening theme and there's like cut. And like by the end of it, I didn't realize like, you see who's a little white-haired boy. You see him in the opening theme. I've already been registered to know his face. And like, there's something to be said about that. And even stylistically in the show, there's a lot of really cool things that I love. How some shots just linger. Oh my God. That just teaches you so much on a subconscious level that I didn't realize like how much tension just a lingering shot could have. The longest one I think was the train station one where Shinji had a choice, to stay or go. And like, they just sat there. It just sat there for like a whole minute, and the cicadas and the mixing of the sound and the fact that it's always summer. There's just like so many. Oh man, this show just has it all for the most part. And before any of the thematic things, it just instantly hooks you into the world. And for a minute there, I was convinced that it was our world, not knowing it was like this, mutilated version of our world, right?
Yeah, that it was already post-apocalyptic on the way to another apocalypse.
Yes, I didn't realize that until obviously the angels showing up, and you learn about the first impact. And there's not that much lore dumping. The lore is the show. It's not like. There's a few parts where I'm like, what the hell is happening? But other than that, it's like the spear of, whatever it's called, like Longus and Longinus and Vaginus and Pensitis. I just
people say like 8 different ways. It's crazy. That spear. Yeah.
So like, that's my thing. There's like moments like that where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm a little lost. But like most of the time, in terms of story choice and editing and themes and moments, that whole show just hooks you in. The other thing I guess I need to address, like the sexuality stuff. I needed to take a step back while watching it and not think about how these characters are teenagers, like physically teenagers. I literally work with kids. These are the kids' ages that I would be teaching. They were literally 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. So like, like the sexuality of it all. Like, and I understand I was 15-year-old at one point, I was horny. Like, and I'm still horny, but I'm horny for people my age. But you're watching a show like this and you're like, makes me a little icky wicky. Like, I don't like it because here I am as an educator, and like there's a bare-chested teenager, and they're like falling on top of each other, and it's just weird. It's just weird. But like you have to recontextualize it. It's all for like the Shinji of it all. It's all for like the weird emotion Shinji has without having a mom, without having a dad that was there for him. That really weird depressive state that he's in. You know, he's a husk of a person most of the time, unless he's piloting the Ava. Then he has a purpose. He's just, you know. There's so many really beautifully nuanced things in it, and there were so many things that made me uncomfortable. But that's kind of the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of that's the whole reason it's happening. So
I say a lot of like at least the fan service that a lot of people with anime, you know, it's always a topic that comes up. This, for me anyway, this show doesn't really have any, like a lot, if any, of that. I know obviously you see, like there's a shot of the three of them all. Like become one with me, Shinji, man. That sort of stuff, and you know, there's angles of Asuka and Misato and all that.
Yeah,
but for me, at least the way I think and look at it is, there's one shot of Asuka where she's just flown off at Shinji, right? And she's like that and slams the door.
Mm-hmm.
For me, a lot of people would say that's fan service, but it's the angle and perspective that you got to look at. Like you are at that point looking at it from Shinji's eyes, and it's not, she's not in that moment ever sexualized. It's just, you know, look, this is how Shinji's seeing her in that moment. And for me, that's what the show does a lot of the time. And unless it's Misato, then it's like,
yeah, Misato is all tit. But no, the one important thing too is I know in Japanese culture, like, you know, collective bathing is not out the norm. You know, there's just some things like, well, there are things that are inherently not sexual that us in our Western world tend to sexualize, right?
Yeah.
And part of it, and there's some things that this show does, and I'm like, did they really got to do that shot? But then there's other shots where you're like, okay, this makes sense. You know what I mean? Like his struggle. All Shinji wants is a mom-like figure. But Misato can't be that. Misato, it's not in her to be that. Never has been. She resented her own mother. And then you've got Rei, who doesn't even know who she is, and she happens to be Shinji's mom manifested somewhere else. Like there's some weird layers of that, and I know Jarod probably lost his mind when that happened.
Jarod called it quite early on. Funnily enough.
I noticed it. Just the way Shinji's dad talked with her, I was like, this is not normal. But and then with Asuka, Asuka's the one that I honestly resonate with the most in terms of a person, someone that just needs a lot of attention. You know what I mean? Someone that's just attention needed. Why are y'all laughing? Why are y'all laughing? I gotta know. I gotta know.
No, it's fine. It's we outnumber the guy who's wrong. It's fine. It's totally fine.
You don't like Asuka?
I had a lot of choice words for Asuka for the lion's share of this show. Like I was like, Asuka is a lot. I said Asuka is kind of grating. I had a lot of those, like, you know, she's obviously written to be this way. This is not a failing of the writing. It's just this character is annoying the shit out of me. Yeah. And like something's got to give. It's why, like I said before, I prefer the rebuilds to the show, is that like I think that they move at a much brisker and more natural pace with a characterization and character development, but also at like doling out meaningful explanation as to why these people are like this.
Yeah.
And I kind of became the certified Asuka hater on Pro and Noob, and I'm sure Mitch is happy to hear that my buddy I put into
you can't
the fold.
see it because I've got the facade on, but I'm ecstatic inside. I'm warm for the first time.
Well, Asuka to me, because
she's great. She's great.
I work with kids every day. That is the most true to character kid in the whole show. I mean, I've had my fair share of like sad boys. Like, you know, that's what you teach. You know, I'm teaching an age where you're changing. But Asuka's the most resonant of them all. Like, you know, she's got a crush on her mentor kind of thing, and she has all these weird feelings. She also doesn't know what to do with them. And Shinji doesn't think about it that way. He sees Asuka as this, like, you know, just person, not even in his way, just another person that's just there that he cohabitates with. Whereas she has the same feelings as Shinji, but she never vocalizes that. And that's part of both that character's like internal struggles. And that's kind of what clicked for me later. Asuka, I couldn't stand at the beginning, Jared. I will say it took until like the right towards like from like episode 18 on. I'm like, okay, you've had some shit happen too. And that didn't click till much later. And she's just looking for a physical love, and physical attention just as much as Shinji is. But Shinji's so complex because he's seeking a mother and 3 different people and a father that clearly resents him. But not for his own mistakes.
It's interesting because the pair of them are essentially the same character in the same arc. They're just coming at it from 2 different angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's got the anger in it. He's got the sad boy moment.
Yes.
Well, I mean, and it's really compelling when you compare them. Like it is the, I am so crippled by this overwhelming, almost existential dread of, of my life when it was normal. And now I'm a child soldier fighting these like eldritch fucking monsters on a daily basis in this like bizarre flesh mech that my mother's soul is in. And I have a crush on my mom's clone. And I also have a crush on this girl who fucking hates me. And also I have a crush on like my caretaker, where like shit, like you said, like Shinji, it's all of that. It's that like self-loathing dread where like Asuka obviously deals with a lot of self-loathing. But like she papers over it with this like almost like Raphael from the Ninja Turtles style. Like I'm going to be as loud and boisterous and showboaty as possible to paper over the fact that I feel empty inside. And like when those 2 personality types clash, where she is constantly like, not only do I want the attention, I want somebody to like match me. I want somebody who can stand on their own 2 feet in front of me, challenge me and say, you're out of line, knock it the fuck off. And Shinji can't do that. He has the potential to do that, but he can't bring himself to do that because he's so afraid of scaring these people away. Porcupine dilemma or hedgehog dilemma, whatever it is. Hedgehog dilemma. So and it makes for a very, very fascinating, very compelling character arc for both of them together. Scotty, the one thing you brought up that I think is so compelling about the show, because and I've said on numerous occasions on this show, more times than I can count, that I've always been weird about that anime fan service thing. It's always been something that put me off. I'm not a prude, but like, when a show that already looks so beautiful and is so dynamic, be it this or like, my biggest one up to this point was My Hero Academia, it will come to a screeching halt to, in many cases, show me a teenager's breasts. And I'm like, I don't think I need this. I think I just kind of want to go back to superhero school.
Yeah.
Can we please stop doing this? And again, that's always been something that put me off. I told Mitch before, it's something that like is the reason why I'm so much the noob is that I was always like, this is a lot.
Jump in. You have had a lot of character development in that. Because there's one very egregious fan shot in a show we have just started that's going to come out after this. And you didn't mention it. I
didn't. And it was there was a genre reason for that. And I think just me saying that explains exactly what I mean without us delving into the bebop of it all. But when you bring up the nudity and again the fan service, whatever. Again, I have said on the record multiple times, I think you can age these kids up for the most part and not change very much at all.
That's what I was going to say. I was thinking like these kids, these could have easily been 18 and 19-year-olds and they had the shapes and figures of 18 and 19-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Just being real.
All of that said, where I think the nudity is very intelligently executed is that because the core idea of this show is about humanity and how humanity interacts with itself and with each other. And, that whole idea that is bound up in love, in anger, in hatred, in prejudice, in, how far will you let somebody into your soul, and how well will you let them know you, and how well can you ever imagine how they see you?
Yeah.
And exploring, Shinji as this, and I don't say this in a glib way, but as this like hormonal chaotic mess, who has spats of being incredibly selfish and, incredibly, frankly, vulgar. It is like the sticking point of the show is that like, and I love that the rebuilds, and that End of Evangelion are like, Shinji, you sexually assaulted Asuka.
Yep.
There's no getting around that. Yeah, you're a kid, and hopefully you learn and grow beyond that, or whatever. Like in the normal world, but like at the end of the day, like you assaulted one of your friends, and all of the themes about desire and how an intimacy and the concept of being bare before somebody. Kind of made incredibly literal. I think I said to Mitch either on air or off air that like the recurring motif of, being so vulnerable and like naked, metaphorically or literally, is like George Lucas levels of like, I'm going to make this metaphor so fucking unsubtle and so loud, that you kind of have to try to miss it. And again, does it make me uncomfortable? Yes. Do I find myself unsettled by it? Yes. But I also have to go, this is not just for funsies. This is motific. And there is it's this idea of intimacy. It's this idea of being laid bare. It's Shinji as this, again, like hormonal mess of like, I can't separate because I'm a 14-year-old boy and, I'm surrounded by these, these two girls and this woman who I find profoundly attractive. I can't separate, compassion and camaraderie and like a just natural, wholesome love from desire. Mm-hmm. I can't separate those two things. And, again, to make a Star Wars comparison, it's that whole concept of like selfless love versus selfish love. Shinji is too young and is too damaged to not have that Anakin Skywalker selfish kind of possessive love. That when he is kind of, overtaken by the magic Ava juice, what he LCL, sees, the LCL. Mine's more fun to say. You can make merch out of mine. That you get, but you how is he presented with them? He's presented with this, again, very like carnal version of them, but what they're saying is incredibly profound and spiritual. Like it is them laid bare, and it has like, like the sexy fucking saxophone music, which was weird. I had another moment as a grown ass man going, God, I hope the person I live with doesn't walk into the room.
That's what I kept saying too.
I haven't felt that way since I played Soul Calibur 4 in my Nana's house. Praying my Nana doesn't open the door and see Ivy Valentine's triple F boobs bouncing out of her gimp suit.
I mean, that's your fault for maining that character.
I didn't main Ivy. I just wanted the trophy for getting through arcade.
Sure, Jarod. Sure.
But and again, they make you fight Ivy, and you only unlock Star Killer if you beat arcade.
Oh yeah,
Star Wars
of course, it's
characters.
Always for Star Killer, isn't it?
Always for Star Killer.
It's always
Fuck
for the
you.
edge.
But Mitch is the one who first started calling me the elevated edgelord, and
here he is.
I want that on a t-shirt. But yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought it up, though, Scotty, because that was a sticking point. Like there were episodes where I kind of told Mitch, I was like, I understand. I need to kind of have a soapbox moment about this because it's making me feel weird and it's making me feel icky. And I will put my critical analysis hat on in a minute, but I just need to say, I feel fucking weird about this. Okay, now for critical analysis. But
that's good though, because I think even like 10 years ago, this would have been a thing that was kind of praised and glorified and not as easily picked apart appropriately by people in our bracket, the white nerd. You know what I mean? Like it's part of
white nerds have loved this show for 30 years.
Yes.
Every fedora wearing neckbeards like personality.
It's why Alden called us lowborns.
But now I will say there are certain aspects of anime that inherently make me cringe, and this show had none of it. The show had none of that. There was no, and even there's things in Pokemon that I'm like, ugh, like this is kind of
like the overacting and overexpressing.
When they do like the thing and like their cheeks get big and and they're like they do all that. Like, sure, I get it. It's cute. It's fun. It's for kids. This show felt very adult from the beginning. It felt super real. And you know what's funny? There's that weird, fantasy that we all have now. It's like, could you imagine this in live action? And like, sure, my brain for a minute was like, this could be really cool in live action. But the storytelling, there is no way it could be as compelling. There's just no way.
Did you ever hear about the rumors of the live action for this?
No. See, this is why I need you, Mitch.
I've not. No.
If I said Peter Jackson was attached, would that change your mind on it?
I don't think so. No, I just love how this makes me feel. Like it Peter Jackson's great. He did Lord of the Rings really well. Like
there's also concept art out there as well if you can find it. Yeah,
I'm doing the digging
like Unit
right
1, 2, and 3. They look nothing like you want them to look like, but they look okay. It's very 2001.
You said concept art, and Scotty, like every single synapse fired at once.
Oh, this is weird. What am I expecting? Oh, Mitch, this is crazy.
Whether it obviously it's been so long, it's one of those I'm not entirely sure if it's actually legit or not.
Yeah,
but I think everyone's just kind of accepted that it is. I think there's Jackson's talked about it at some point, but
it's on the subreddit. Oh, and there's Tokyo 3. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, as much as I would love to look, I can put it in the private chat that I found the link for it. As much as I would love the opportunity to see this, and it would be really cool to see it, I just know in my gut, like, there are very few things where I'm like, the source material is just end all be all. But damn, man, if this, I mean, like, the source material for this is just so next level. I couldn't believe what I was watching half the time because it challenged me in ways that shows don't always challenge you. You know what I mean? Like it challenged me in very, very interesting ways. And it made me feel the entire time I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel because when you watch most media, and I keep saying Western and Eastern media and the differences.
Oh, I do that.
But I'm trying to imply like things that are, like so inherently American or so inherently Campbellian. You kind of have to throw it out
the window.
When you watch
44 minutes was longer than I had.
I know
on the docket.
So I read a lot of Campbell. I'll say this, but there's some part of it, like the Oriental mythology that we can tap into and look at, and like the idea that spirits exist in animals and that you're part of a bigger, nature of things, and that's nothing. That's the whole human instrumentality project, and that didn't click to me till later. I watched the movies and the shows, and I'm like, what does this really mean? And like I understand it now. It is kind of like the midichlorians of it all. It's like what's assimilate into one thing. Let's, life would be easier if we could all be empathetic with each other and understand each other and see each other as we are, as souls, not as these bodies with these horrible feelings. And that's one thing about Shinji that really just truly resonated with me, especially like a teenage version of me. Those horrible gut-wrenching desires that you have and that you go through, the desire for love and emotion and the desire for sexuality, the desire to understand who you are and like who you like and what those things are. Shinji goes through it, blatantly and beautifully in front of all of us. And like, I hadn't tapped into those feelings since I was 13 or 14 years old. And this show kind of allowed me to go like, man, like who am I now? Like, who am I? Who is this version of me? Who could I have been? Or even like, man, I wronged that person, or I wronged that girl. Like that could have been my Asuka, and I just didn't even know it, Or I saw different people that I had been with in my life as those each individual person. We've all had a crush on an older lady before, and like them be maybe a little sexual with you, not intentionally, but like that's happened to me where I've like had friends' moms that I thought were kind of hot and they hugged me a little too long and it did something in my brain. You know what I mean? So there's something to be said about that. I don't know.
Well, what you say there with like, again, like the angle of sexuality and how like so much of the show is about like identity and accepting identity, like, and like understanding the other person as a whole. I also love the just unambiguous like queer coding of of Shinji and Kaoru.
It's amazing.
That like, especially like after Shinji is kind of on this run of again just being this like hormonal nightmare.
Sorry, like, hormonal nightmare is so perfect for that, Jarod.
like it's what it is. Like he's this like hormonal chaos monster who doesn't know what he wants, and then like. And yeah, he gets flustered throughout the show, but like when Kaoru like put the moves on him, he like that was a level of like we didn't see from him in earlier instances, and like that in and of itself, I was like, that is a brave move. Like that is a moment of like, if this came out today, people would lose their fucking minds.
Yeah. It came out in the mid-90s. How crazy is it? In Japan, of all places.
Yeah.
Because Japan, for a long time, was not tolerable when it came to gays. Oh my God.
And even now, it's not the best. They slowly more tolerate.
Yes.
That. Like, it's not the place.
So that big swing, I was like, wow. Like I was not expecting like for Shinji to have a crisis of identity and sexuality in that way, because he felt so like decidedly, again, like straight little, straight teenager, hormone monster, that then was like, oh, well, like this whole other avenue opened up. And, the way he reacts to having to kill him, like it's a lot, and it's really heavy and it's really impactful, no pun intended. Before everybody teases about it. Scotty, how do you and Mitch? You don't take this as me moving away from the show into the rebuild.
Oh no.
Ask any question you want. For me, this was like a weird aha moment I had. Scotty, at what point did you start to piece together that the rebuilds were not just a retelling but a time loop?
So that's the part.
It's not a time loop, but I'll let you
say because.
For lack of a better term.
When did I realize it?
And how did you react to it? Because I know when I sat down to watch the rebuilds, because I went into it, and again, because the rule was know as little as possible. Know as little as humanly possible. That's why I told Scotty, I was like, don't read the descriptions for a second. You type it in and you press play, and that's all you better do, or I will come to Baton Rouge and beat your ass. Because I want you to be mind fucked as much as I did.
Yeah.
As much as I was. And I went into it thinking it would be a continuation of the story, especially because of the just bizarre abstract way that End of Evangelion ends. Where, the world has ended, human instrumentality has taken place, and it's Asuka and Shinji alone on the beach. Shinji tries to choke her out. He backs off. Pathetic. And it ends on that, like, just glower note. And I'm like, okay, cool. I know there's movies. It'll continue this story. Everybody will be better by the end. And I come to it, and I was like, why is this the first episode? Why is this the first episode? You know, and Mitch got a very nasty text message from me about that.
Oh, I did.
I was like, you motherfucker, I started over again. Like, why?
I've never felt more validated in that.
Well, this is New Game Plus. Little did I know.
Well, the only difference between the first Redux, whatever you want to call it, the what do you keep calling it?
The rebuilds.
Rebuild. Doesn't that one introduced the glasses girl with the big boobs? God, what's her name?
That's 2.2. Yeah.
Oh, it's 2.2. Okay, there we go. I forget her name. They don't say her name enough.
Mari.
Yeah,
Mari.
Yeah.
I love.
I just didn't.
Would I in the comments like, oh my god.
So one thing I will say is I honestly like the TV show and the end of Evangelion a lot more than the rebuilds, but I like the rebuilds because they felt larger and budget wise and I guess animation wise they were better, you know. But there's something to be said about like just the editing of the original show, the original airing, and end of Evangelion that made me feel a certain way. Like the part in end of Evangelion that like still kind of gets me emotional is when truly Shinji is assimilated into whatever, you know, reality he's in, and you see just the lines and you see the X's and you see the shapes manifesting, and then it's cutting to people sitting in a theater, and I'm like, I don't know, that it made my brain, it kind of had that George Lucas like montage effect where I'm like, oh my God, like how should I be feeling? What is this making me feel? Where are they going to go with this? You know, and with the rebuilds, I didn't feel as artistically intrigued, but story and thematically and like, you know, just overall with where they were going with it, I think the rebuilds did make me feel more invested in the story itself. The art, not so much. Whereas End of Evangelion, I was watching an experimental film. Like the last 30 minutes of that was just true experimental, just absolutely thought-provoking. Again, the images of the people in the theater. I don't know why. That bled so much in my brain. And then it cutting to like live action, you know, Tokyo 3 in like the distance, and then like people walking up and down the streets. There's something to be said of like you're watching an animated show and then it becomes live action, but not like You Framed Roger Rabbit live action. You know what I mean? It becomes like, whoa, this is like an analysis on not just, you know, maybe this Japanese mentality or this teenage mentality, but like an analysis of like everyone. You know what I mean? And like what this world actually means. And, you know, I don't know, that's where I'll go with it. And I know that's not that much of an answer you probably expected. No. I like the rebuilds. I thought they were great. I thought the music was great. Beautiful boy. I had to listen to that song. I'm not kidding. You can see my top listened to music on Apple Music.
Has Jarod told you what the original outro music was for the show?
No.
It was a cover. I think it was Ray's Japanese voice actress, or the girl who sung Cruel Angel's Thesis, doing a cover of Fly Me to the Moon.
Okay, yes, and I have listened to that. And it was on, I watched all the credits. I watched everything because I know animes do post-credits. And so I was like watching that one, and it had a really good post-credit scene at the end of the first rebuild movie. But
yeah, well, they don't have it on Netflix anymore. They have that, again, beautiful.
They didn't pay for the rights.
Sweet. At the end of but like the show, like it was, like he was saying, like it is flat. Like it's like Frank Sinatra's "Fly Me to the Moon," but as sung by either Ray Ayanama's voice actor or
I'm certain it's Ray's actress. So
yeah, you said that before, so I think you're right. Well, no, I was just curious because, like, you know, I was so, again, because everything started out, and part of my like analysis of the rebuilds was like, oh, this feels like a tighter, more focused. Not that the show isn't focused, but it felt like, okay, like we really want to like tell this kind of in a more traditional pace. And I was really into that. And I was like, okay, so we're just going to like fold in a lot of ideas. And then we get like halfway through, and then I'm like, oh, so like we've wildly diverted now.
Yes.
You know, and I'm like, okay. And again, I'm still in that mindset of this is a retelling. This is a retelling, and we're changing some things for it to feel newer. And then it gets to the end of the final rebuild where Kaoru is basically like, yeah, man, like this has happened so many times already, and it's going to happen some more. And here's the line of the pods, and here's you on the beach again. And, and then those little hints that like the moon is already scarred, the ocean is already red.
Yes.
And I just remember like, I think it ended up being like the title of the episode, Mitch, of like me walking away from the final rebuild going, I don't understand it, but I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just having that and
I think it was feel it.
I don't understand it, but I
don't get it, but I feel it, or something like that.
I don't get it, but I feel it. But it was like I feel what this is telling me, but I can't verbalize it. It was why I love doing Pro and Noob Evangelion, because it was just so stimulating that it left me like with the inability to say what it was.
But that's all art. That's good art. That's really good art does that to you. When you can't quantify the emotions you're experiencing and feeling in that moment, that's when art is effective. That's like, and we could say everything we could say about Campbell and Star Wars and Harry Potter and all these things that are, that are all rooted in the same mythology. When a show like this comes along and it doesn't necessarily go to those same archetypes, you have something that you leave even more satisfied and more ambiguous and somehow still completely not confused by what you witnessed, but you certainly can't find the words to quantify the experience. And that I think that's just really good art. I think there's something to be said about this era of anime that I do want to get more into, but I'm just afraid it won't be as compelling. I mean, this is just so compelling. Like Michael showed me Death Note. Death Note's great. It's got more of a mystery aspect and adds layers, sure. Yeah. But like, I don't think at any point
thriller with like elements of a murder mystery, but backwards. Yeah.
I just don't know if that show will ever make me feel as lifted as this show did, or as
certainly won't, depressed. But it'll make you feel things for sure.
Yeah.
Death Note's on the short list of things I had seen going into this show that was like that Mitch had to go, well, fuck, let me scratch that off.
Yeah. I say there's a few. You got like Ghost in the Shell. I'm trying to think what the closest things would be. Not that Ghost in the Shell is close to this.
I haven't watched, but that's just a movie, isn't it? Just 2 movies or 3 movies?
There's 2 movies. I think technically 3. There's 3 or 4 seasons of a show. And then Netflix started doing a couple of others. But the first movie, and if you fancy it, I think it's called Innocence.
Okay, yeah, that's what I saw. I saw it on a sale recently, and I was like,
which isn't as good as the original, but it's fine. It's fine. I'd more recommend just the original Ghost in the Shell movie than anything. But yeah, then you've got like Akira.
Yeah.
Though Akira, if you can read the manga of Akira, you get a lot more out of it. The movie's fantastic, but it cuts a lot of stuff out.
There's just a high art to it that most people, I don't know. I wonder how kids, like not that my students should be watching this, they're too young, but like, if they were 15, 16, maybe like, or 17, I don't know. Like, I wonder what they would get out of it, because you get so used to these preconceived notions of how things should go. And then when they don't go that way, you've got like the Last Jedi response, where like you can take it and digest the art and go, man, this worked for me. Or you can have the Last Jedi response of, this is the worst thing ever. It killed a franchise.
Well, and not to the same scale, obviously, because it was more of a niche back then over here, and like obviously the Western part of the world. But the last 2 episodes of the show, people hated.
I knew that. I heard that.
Hated. It was people even now be like, just watch End of Evangelion. Don't bother with those 2 episodes. Just fuck it up completely. But I think as time's gone on, people are more accepting of those 2 episodes now, and it's slowly creeping back into the conversation.
So I got to ask Mitch this, because he's expert. He's pro, Jared's noob, and I'm nipple. So from one nipple to one pro, I got to ask you this. Go ahead. One thing I still can't quite understand, and I know there's some sort of allegory to like stage plays and performances and what that looks like. What was up with the ending of both end of Evangelion, the TV show, and then of course the very last movie of the rebuilds. What's up with like the stage? Like they're on set for a film and like they're or whatever that would be. Like it is a stage hall and they've got like the angels hanging on hangers.
One's a stage and the other one's an actual full-on set.
So like I never really understood. That's the only allegory I was like, they're all playing an archetype, they're all playing a role. This is a repeat. It's a new episode. Like I don't know.
Honestly, I think that's just kind of it, if I'm honest. It's one of those. Arno's very not very talkative about what everything means in this.
Sure.
He hates when people miss everything, and that's half the reason why the rebuilds are a thing. It's like, if you're going to be fucking stupid about it, here's the dumb version of Evangelion, just to prove a point. But yeah, I honestly think the soundstage stuff is just like, hey, everyone's got their role to play. This is yours. The sound booth can be a lonely place because you are just in there, you are in with your feelings and everything. I think that's kind of, if anything, what he's going for. But
I think it's twofold. I think it is very much the like, everybody has a role to play in like the very aggressively collectivist, if not for the rest of humanity, who are you? Angle of this show. I think it also has a lot to do with the concept again of performance and identity. Like I think that putting somebody on a stage, be it like a traditional stage with lights and a curtain, or on a sound stage,
you have nowhere to hide.
You have nowhere to hide, and while you are on that stage, you are performing yourself to other people. And other people are now consuming who you are. And that, like, I think it is meant to be it's kind of a crossroads. Like, you can either look at this as a very cynical thing of, you can perform yourself and other people will consume it. And you are kind of at the mercy of how you are perceived. Or it is you are just alone, naked on a stage, and you have the opportunity to be vulnerably, unapologetically yourself. And
don't be afraid of the image of yourself that you give out to people that they have in their heads.
That was the part I love the most, y'all. The whole because and I think we all have this on a deep psychoanalysis level, but the way my mom views me is not in any way the same way one of my students would view me. It's not in the same way that I would view myself, or my dad would view me, or even my dog, who looks up to me like I'm the greatest person in the world. It's just, that was one thing that I thought was so beautifully done, that little bits of you live in other people, but it's their perception of you. It's what they hope and dream and love of you, or it's what they hate and dislike of you. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Jarod, because that was the one thing that I was like, oh my God, this is so profound. I've never thought about it this way, because I've always thought I'm just the same Scott to everyone. I'm the same Mr. Jayro to everyone. But there's no way you can be for that. So there is that whole idea of micro acting. You have to put on a little bit of a performance, for each individual person,
Absolutely. And I will say, and this was a very funny sticking point for Pro and Noob, Scotty, that you'll be entertained by this little anecdote. There's a podcast I listen to called Dissect, where they every season they cover a different album, and it's every episode is a song, and they do a very thorough analysis of it. Mitch knows where this is going.
Oh, I'm subscribed to that one.
And they have a sub show. I absolutely love it. They're actually, funnily enough, Mitch, they're doing a season on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers right now. They have a sub show called Last Song Standing, where they'll take an artist and every episode they cover an album and they pick their favorite songs. They decide what the best song off of that album is, and they do that until they get to the final episode where they debate what is this artist's greatest song. The first season was Kendrick Lamar. And this was several years ago. So Mr. Morale was the newest thing. This is pre-Beef, pre-GNX. And I just wanted to listen back through it after the beef, because I had just been taking in so much Kendrick analysis. I wanted to dive back into that, just drench myself in it again. And I was listening to the Mr. Morale episode, And as the host of Dissect, Cole Kushner, who I think is one of the smartest people, now analyzing art on the internet, I am a huge fan of him. I think he's brilliant. He was like explaining all of that, like about how Mr. Morale is. He's always said, like, I think this is the album version of a stage play, and how you're performing yourself, and you have the option to either be authentically yourself or very inauthentically what you think you're supposed to be. And when you do that last one, you are consumed by ego. And there's a lot of like Eckhart Tolle in there, which is kind of in the same Campbell Jung kind of pantheon. And as he's going through this, the co-host of Last Song Standing, Charles Holmes, who hosts the Ringers nerd show Ringerverse and Midnight Boys, who's very much a big dork and is very into anime. Cole's just giving this very beautiful explanation of Mr. Morale, and then Charles just kind of all coyly goes, "Oh, it's Neon Genesis Evangelion." And Mitch did so well to inculcate me from spoilers, from any type of like getting too far ahead of myself to accidentally A, piece it together, but B, like to make sure I experienced the story in real time. And Mitch, we were closing in on the last 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah. And he gets fucking thrown a cheat sheet for everything, didn't he?
And
I was
the thing that was so funny, Scotty, that I think you will find very, very entertaining once you finally go back and watch Pro and Noob, is that I spent a lot of this show, and I'd like to think I wasn't missing the big themes and the big ideas, but I was hung up on this being a Christ metaphor.
See, and that's what I thought too.
I was because again, the episode 0 of Pro and Noob is Mitch showing me the main trailer Netflix put out when they got Evangelion.
Oh, I need to watch that.
And me going, and again, at the time I didn't know what I was looking at, but I'm like, oh, that alien is nailed to a cross and there's crucifixes everywhere. And I'm like, oh, I was like creation, Genesis, and then that's where my brain was the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's a Christ allegory here. This has to be about like the Judeo-Christian religion.
Nothing.
Right? And it's there's a lot of it, but a lot of it's set dressing. A lot of it's set
I was going to say.
You say the entire ending of the original, end of Evangelion, is Judeo mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rei and Shinji are the last child born without a soul and the savior.
Yeah.
That's the entire. That's why I told you at the start, don't Google the Tree of Life. It will tell you what the fucking show's about.
Yeah, because that was another thing about it with the intro. Was like there was one day where I just kept going pause.
That was the second episode or our first episode, I think.
And
let's go back to the trailer. Where the fuck is Adam? Like, come on.
And Mitch fully let me turn this into a can Jarod figure it out before it happens and fully let me go insane. But again, I went crazy enough that I was like, Rei Ayanami's a clone and it's the mom's soul. And again, Mitch's reaction to that of going, where'd you get that from? And me feeling me feeling like I needed to be medicated for it. But I'm like, Christ metaphor. Oh, Mr. Morale is Neon Genesis Evangelion. And I was at work and I dropped a box of shoes. And I went, oh my God.
It clicked.
And I was, and again, I wasn't missing the big ideas, but I fully went, which is an insane sentence. I went, stop thinking about Jesus. And I was fully, from that moment, I fully was locked in a different way. And I sent Mitch a screen recording of that clip. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I had no recollection of this happening in the show. And he was like, well, fuck me, I guess. Congratulations, Jarod. Enjoy the last 2 episodes.
6 months of my life wasted. No.
So look, not to say there's no allegories to Christ or anything. I wasn't trying to say that earlier, but you do bring up some good points in terms of it being there is, if you look at any mythology, any modern or big mythology, there's always a figure you can direct, your energy towards your I guess your analytical energy of this is the religion's epitome of the actual, like Buddhism, you got Buddha, you know what I mean? And Christianity, you got Christ. And like, there's a lot to be said about that. But I love that there is no true figure except for Adam and what's the woman? Lilith. And like they're seen as these monsters, and all the Evas are bits of these monsters. They're just reconstructed angels, and angels really aren't, because like when you say angels, you think of like these angelic figures. No, these people are just trying to get to Adam because they can start the next impact. And is it Sela?
I've always said sea lake. I'm certain that's how the original English stuff went. But they say like Vile, Zile. He changes like depending on who's pronouncing it.
But like them being people in the show, but them being like monoliths in the movie. Like I didn't know if there was like are they deities, or are they people still? Like there's something to be said about like playing with that kind of ambiguity. And I was doing everything I could to put my Christianity mind on it, because I was born and raised Catholic and I work at a Catholic school. So I'm like, how do I find this association that I'm so familiar with? Because
it is not an accident that I didn't bring any of that up to you.
I'm glad you did.
That was part of that, and that was something I was waiting till this moment to bring up. Is I was like, I want to see if Scotty does the same fucking thing I did, because I was not raised religiously. I was not raised religiously. I come from a relatively agnostic household, but like I am friends with a lot of very religious people. I come from a hyper Catholic hometown. So like, even if I was some like edgelord atheist, like I could not have the iconography and the mythos like not in my mind at any point. Yeah. So I was like, I'm very curious to see if Scotty does the same thing I did and go, with a name like that, there's no way this isn't about Jesus.
See, I'm thankful that the only other anime that I have watched were like Miyazaki films, and like Miyazaki films, all the Ghibli movies kind of put the Christianity thing out the window for the most part. Cause like, our versions of spirits and sprites are very different than the Japanese versions of spirits and sprites, because there's good and bad spirits. But in Catholicism, it's like spirits and demons, right? So like those are two different entities. But like a show like this, really makes you think, well, are the angels necessarily the bad guys? And then all of this, they're trying to, they have been programmed to force I guess a new creation in each planet. That's the one thing with the lore is a little too heavy for me. Like I've had 29 years to digest Star Wars lore, and I could say I'm pretty damn good at it, but this is the one where I'm like, man, the lore is just like, I know there's like godlike beings at the beginning, that the all white beings, and there was one at the Arctic area. I didn't know if that was Adam. Like there's just like some things where I'm like, I'm not quite sure.
So Adam's in the Arctic. Lilith is the one that crashes in Japan.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think it's funny because I had almost an identical reaction, which is, again, we're from Star Wars land. That's not a surprise, and we're both we're both people who promise I won't make it a thing, who also like themselves a little Star Wars trivia here and there, a little bit.
Never guessed.
But like, I think what I also found myself, like, again, the moment I was done, the amount of video essays and like lore explanations I watched, like I realized that for all we just said about there not being a whole lot of like religiosity in the text, like as much as you'd think there would be based on the name of the fucking show and all the verbiage used, the Red Sea, the
Dead Sea Scrolls,
the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Spear of Destiny,
Key and Nebuchadnezzar.
Yes.
Nebuchadnezzar. I'm like, okay. And what I realized was like Star Wars lore truly is most easily understood and most easily conceptualized as like a fictional history. that it is that like I think there's a reason why so many like Star Wars encyclopedias read like history textbooks, whereas the lore of Evangelion does feel like a religious text, where it is like this thing happened and we're not super clear on the details, but it's a whole lot of wibbly wobbly gobbledygook, and there's this weird synthesis of like science and fantastic, like fantasy, fantastical nonsense. And, and that's something I said to Mitch, where I was like, the show's tone threw me off because there's a lot of stretches of this story in the show, in the films that are just hard sci-fi. And then it will just like fishtail into a different lane and go, it's fantasy now. And then it'll just Tokyo drift back into hard sci-fi after being like Shinji's soul got consumed by the juice. And now we're gonna open up a portal to a different dimension and multiverse. And I'm like, whoa, how the fuck did both of that just happen? Meanwhile, I'm the guy who like my favorite thing in the world is like there's spaceships and magic all at the same time. Get over it. But I think that is kind of the separating point. Is like, and I think this is even true of like comic book stuff, which is like my second love, is like a lot of it is you could read it as a history book. It's names, dates, and locations for the most part, where this is an indeterminate amount of time long ago. Aliens showed up and did alien shit, kinda, and now there's like a pantheon of gods because of it. And like the gods are the aliens, but the aliens are gods, but the gods are actually just gods, but it's kind of a lowercase g god. And it's like it's way like it feels way more like a religious text and the way that like creation myths are told than it is, Luke Skywalker flew an X-Wing with the call sign Red 5 during the Battle of Yavin and flew in the Death Star trench and shot a proton torpedo that blew up the Death Star with the
all specific.
And Biggs Darklighter died and names, dates, locations. and I think like because our brains are so wired for that, because that's where we lived for so long, that a story like even Lord of the Rings is closer to names, dates, and locations. Just to pull like another like really dense fantasy text out, like there's a lot of like, and then magic gobbledygook. Don't worry about the details, but like God is involved. Like there's less God was involved in any of those stories than it is here.
Yeah,
it's just the God or these like grotesque aliens, lowercase g God. Like Sorry, I confused myself by the end.
Because you never made the pun. You never said it, and I'm disappointed in you. It's a cruel angel's thesis.
Oh my God, that's good. That's good. So, Mitch, I got to ask you a few things as Nipple here.
Shoot.
Because
Shoot, Nip.
What's most important to me is you've been digesting this show for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Some would say too long, but yeah.
And with your rewatches, what is the profound takeaway that you have with this show? That I don't know if that's the whole point of Pro and Noob, is like to take to give someone the privilege to come to their own conclusions and come to their own cruel angel thesis. But in all actuality, like, is there a part of you? Because like when I talk about midichlorians, and I don't want to make it about me, but I'm just going to do it real quick. My brain can literally wander, and I can just connect things and find love and ideas that I've never found before. But for you, what about this just totally lets you escape?
I think, I don't know if escape's the right word. I think it's more the way it holds up a mirror to yourself. Like with literally every single character, and of course if you watch it as you get older.
Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Shut up. Anyway.
Mirror is the closing song. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. But it's purely just that mirror and the way it's like you kind of have to look and think about yourself for a minute. Like and who you are and like where you're going, and do you even like yourself to a certain point? Obviously at that age the answer was no. some people at this age, the answer is still no. But I think it's more the therapeutic side of everything that keeps me coming back to it. Because as strange as it sounds, like, it's a bit of a comfort, a bit of a therapy show for me.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Like, I tend to watch it every year. I tend to watch it in the winter because the winter's a rough time for me, just to get a bit personal there. But it just kind of, it's just there. Everything else aside, apart from it was, I've never seen anything like it. Like, just visually, like, the design wise, the Avas, like, they just didn't exist back then. Like, actual design wise, but yeah, it's just purely that mirror, that one singular aspect of the show where it's like, hey, you gotta kind of look at yourself for 5 minutes, if anything. And then
that I want to get that out of this show, because I'm sure if I get to your area of expertise and love and understanding that I'll get there. But this show to me allows my brain to go like, man, art isn't as easy as, here's the opening, here's the conflict, here's the resolve, here's the ending. That this was very much like, no, you're meant to experience this, not just watch it and analyze it. You're meant to feel a certain way after it was over. I think it was a great example of high art. Like watching this, here's what I'm going to say. Watching this whole thing all the way through the first time was just like watching 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time, where you go
hour and 21. Again, I am stunned it took this long. I had a little personal bingo card where I'm like Campbell midi-chlorians, which
how long did you give it?
And
well, midi-chlorians wasn't fair because you was plugging.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, like I was like, well, we has to plug it, but like,
look,
how long will it take organically?
It is my favorite movie of all time.
With the reveal of zooming out, incredible.
It is my favorite. It is 2001 is my favorite movie of all time because of the primal man aspect and like how all those things tie to it. But this show has a lot of that too. This show has a lot of like, what is your lizard brain thinking? What is your impulses like? I'm gonna get real gross here, but when Shinji pretty much assaulted Asuka there, and he feels the devastation after, like. That is when you let your brain take over. You're a prisoner of your own instincts at that point. You are, and his instincts were sexual in that moment. And like, every time Ray has to feed him or Asuka has to force feed him because he wants to not eat, or he has to force feed himself, he has to give into those primal instincts of being hungry, even though his mind is like, you want to be dead. You want to kill yourself. You're not worth it. Well, that man held the gun to his head in nerve and was like, sorry, kid, just what we have to do. And then he doesn't die. And, Masato has to save him. Like, you're just like, dude, everyone in this world cares and loves you, but you just can't see it because you're so caught in your own cycle of just self-loathing and like not knowing what you want and not getting the desires that you want, externally, that just ruins you internally. And, I don't struggle with depression. I've had episodes, but it's not something I seasonally struggle with or daily struggle with, or every day, 24 hours a day, like some people do. But that moment where Shinji was just sitting in despair, not wanting to do anything, not just literally looking down, just down, no music's playing. We've all had that moment where like you just need your brain to turn off and it can't turn off no matter as much as you want it to. And I'm glad for you it's a comfort show now. I think it's a beautiful thing. I want this show to become a comfort show too, for me personally, because I love the way it made me feel the first time, but I'm sad I'll never get to experience it again. That's the one
and I was
thing.
just thinking, like, obviously you and Jarod have watched it at completely different ages to when I saw it. So when I saw it, I understood fucking nothing. Absolutely nothing about it. I was like, cool giant robot. Didn't even know they were flesh mechs.
Cool giant robots. And like, I think there's also something to be said for like, when you are that age, like, jokes about, being a young little edgelord aside, like as much as like, as much low hanging fruit as that is, I think there is something to be said for like the impulse of like, oh, this is glower, this is depressing, this is heavy. And like, because it is so melancholic, it's good because of that, and not understanding what that means. Like, like, again, we are not going to litigate Andor with this fucking triumvirate here. Not on a cold day in hell. But
let the world know I didn't bring Andor up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I checked that bingo card. But but no, it's the thing I point to with that show, and why I think it is the thing I can go, no, this does still feel like Star Wars, because as I've said before, it paints in the negative space of hope.
Yeah.
If hope is like the secret sauce of Star Wars that defines that franchise, and that story, the pocket that Andor finds itself in is going, look how awful and fucked up everything is right now. And we as the audience have dramatic irony on our side to know, no matter how dark and how glower and how desperate and depressing it is right now, there is a farm boy twink in the galaxy's armpit who is going to save the galaxy.
Yes.
And there's 1,000 dominoes that have to fall before that's possible. And it's going to suck before it can happen. But as horrifying as the Death Star looks in the Andor post-credit scene, we know how radical acts of hope and love will save everything. And, I don't think a 13-year-old who is having those bouts of I'm depressed and I hate myself because I myself am a chaotic hormone monster. But also I just don't understand what the point of dread in art is. It's every teenager falls in love with Tarantino because everything is morally ambiguous and it's hyper violent and it's, and the sexuality of it all. But it's when you get older, you realize almost the Greek theater character study that is at play. Jules Winfield, when you're a teenager, is cool because it's Sam Jackson saying motherfucker every other line. And and he shoots people and he looks cool. When you get older, you realize this is a story about somebody who profoundly wants to change their life, and how everybody in this story, it's about, I don't think I can do this anymore. And how Jules will go down the path of, I don't want to do it anymore. And Vincent Vega will die doing it.
Yes.
Shit like that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mitch, but that was just
because my whole experience with this show was that entire thing. You just, every time you rewatch it, as you just get older, you find something new. So my experience was, I found this out. I found this out. I found that out. And I was never big into forums and stuff as growing up on the internet or whatever. So everything I found out about myself. So it's just informed the way I look and I think about media growing up. And, you two have essentially had that entire lifespan of finding out about this show at your first go around. So it'd be interesting to see if you do go back and watch it, if you do find anything new about it. But hopefully you do, because I assume there's a ton
of course. I think that's the thing. I think any good show should do that to you, or any good art should do that to you, where you get more out of it later. And now that I've had more time to digest it, because it's been exactly a month, or maybe a month and a week, that I finished the whole show and the movies. And I was on a steady train of I was telling my wife, sorry, I'm going to finish this. You're just going to go to bed alone. I need to watch these next 2 episodes because it was so compelling. And by the time you meet Asuka, the show is at a little middle level. And I think it's episode 7 or something. Episode
9, I think.
9. I was like, oh, okay, fresh blood. This is nice. And then you get to episode 15, 16, and then shit's hitting the fan, and the angels are way more intense than they were, and they're having to learn the dance and everything that. There's just, it's impressive what a show can do in 22 minutes. And now we live in an era where shows have an unlimited amount of time and they barely do anything with their story. I don't know. Yeah. And it's all very subtle character development, but this show in 26 episodes was a biblical epic. It just had the nature of it. You know what I mean? It was just huge. Yeah. It was huge, and it was well done and well paced. My God, the pacing of the show is tremendous. There's no, I can't compare it to anything else because it takes its time where it needs to, but it also does not waste time. There was some Ava battles that start and end in 2 minutes. It's amazing. Yeah. It just and most shows that would be the whole later half of the show, the whole 10 minutes of the show would be this one single angel fight. But it knew when to spare time, and it knew when to use time really well.
And I think that works in its favor as well for the I would say the angel name, and I can't remember it right now, but it's just not important. The one that comes down and essentially wins with the whip arms, because you've had the entire show with everything's over in a flash, or you don't even see it in the case of the first one. Having that is far more impactful at the end, because you get a good 10 minutes with it, or whatever it is.
Yes. You sit with it. You watch them destroy Nerve headquarters. And what's the Nerve headquarters emblem say? I bet you know it, Mitch.
I do.
Gods. What is gods in heaven? Well, the gods are
it's
in
like
heaven.
Gods in heaven all is well, or something like that.
God, it's
fine.
So off the top of my head, I can't remember it, but it's something like that.
God in his heaven, comma, all is right with the world.
That's the one that was right as well. Yeah,
it's wild. And not realizing that the God within is the whole point. Everyone has their own God within themselves, and that's the whole point of human instrumentality. And all Shinji's dad was just to assimilate back into being, I guess, truly in love with his partner, but could never achieve that love, and taking out that on his son. I do like the rebuild, because Shinji kind of mans the fuck up. That's the one thing I do like. Shinji's like, nah, dad, you're a piece of shit. I'm not doing this. Oh, now I understand you.
Over it.
Yes, and now I understand you. Oh, this is why, because you were the nerdy, quiet kid, kind of like I am, and you found my mom, and y'all fell in love, and then she assimilated into the Ava 1. It's just, I don't know.
This is why I recommend the manga to people as well. And I said it to Jarod, but it's not essential, because in that they change the circumstances of how he's raised. Whereas in the show, he's raised by his teacher, his headmaster or his teacher.
Yes.
In the manga, he's raised by his grandparents. So he's a bit more of a normal teenager. He's got a bit more of that I don't give a shit attitude, but mixed in with everything from the show. It's really, it goes in. It's essentially the reason why people clocked what the rebuilds were doing straight away, because it kind of tells you that it's a loop of some kind. But it's definitely well worth a read if you've got time.
I would,
and
love
it's still
to
as well.
I just love how this show is what it is. This show, but it does allow you to deep dive and look and be, very reflective on it. But this show didn't try to. It tried a lot. Well, how do I say this? It's not trying. It's just doing.
Yeah,
and it's kind of Yoda-ish of me, but it's not. It's not like, hey,
can't help it. We can't help but fucking do it. We sorry. Talk about it
every week, and we have been for 6 years now. And whenever. For me, whenever I watch or consume something, and especially as intensely as I watched this, a show sometimes tends to overcompensate, or a movie tends to overcompensate and give you too much and show you too much of their hand early on. This show, every episode was just here's a nugget. Here's a nugget.
Yeah.
And then there's these spears. You're like, what the hell is this about? And then it gets a little bit more intense. You're like, oh, they're holding Adam underneath this area. And here's a giant Rei Ayanami. And I was just like, this is just, it built up. And of course there is what the fuck moments, because they're supposed to be, like every good movie or show. But this one just built so much better. I don't know, man. I'm very happy y'all had me on to talk about this stuff. Is there anywhere else we want to go with this?
I just wanted to say, everything you guys have been saying, just my brain is going crazy, because I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think that for me and Scotty, again, the guys who come from Star Wars land, I think that there is to get kind of meta about this, there is a collective consciousness, the big overarching thing with Mr.
Unconscious.
Unconscious. I know. Well, the collective unconscious becoming conscious is what I'm getting at. But just ideas that are like shared across these stories. You know, like Scotty and I are forever colored by, you know, how deeply we have come to understand Star Wars and, you know, analyze it. And, you know, I had Eli on Nerd Academy last week, and we were talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And he made a joke where he was like, you know, he's like, I really don't want to compare everything to Star Wars. He's like, I feel like that meme where it's like the person who's only ever seen Boss Baby watching Reservoir Dogs. You know, this reminds me a lot of Boss Baby. You know, and I hate doing that. And I know I do it a lot on this show, but it's like the piece of art that, like, you know, I could teach a class on.
Same.
That, like, I do love, especially with the theme of the mirror that you were talking about, Mitch, of like that, like forcing you to like really dig deep. Cause like I had a moment watching the episode that I don't think I realized how I was thinking about it, where Shinji has like that, again, that very psychedelic vision quest when he's in the magic Ava juice. And like, because I had that moment of like, what would I see?
Yes.
You know, that moment of what would I see in the LCL? And then just listening to this conversation, I realized I asked myself the same question about the Cave of Evil on Dagobah. If I walked in there, what would confront me in that cave? What would confront me in that cave? What would confront me in the cave on Octo? And I realized, Mitch, that Scotty, you kind of got the ball rolling for this on me when you like made like the Last Jedi comparison, you know, where I went, in the same way that Evangelion, despite being very heavy and very dour and paints in the negative space of hope, that there is a like it is almost like a past life regression, or like, you know, ayahuasca, you know, where it's like you are going to go into the cave on Dagobah, you're going to go into the LCL and confront yourself. That I did the same thing with The Last Jedi for the longest time. Where I'm like, this is a movie that, yes, it ends on a much bigger upswing than Evangelion has any interest in doing, sure. But I still was like, you know, this story is about losing yourself and reclaiming who you are. And
that's great.
And, you know, and about going, who am I in the face of failing at every task I ever put in front of myself? And how do I define that failure? And how do I let the failure define me? And, you know, going into that movie every time, just feeling so overcome with like, fuck, like, I can't believe this is what Luke became, you know, legendary hero, Jedi Master, Luke Skywalker, you know, and then just to see him go, no, I am this. Like, you know, heroes are real, you know, standing up for what you love is important. This isn't just platitudes. This isn't just, you know, like the power of myth. It's like, this is why myth is powerful. And I kind of had a moment where I went, yeah, there is a lot of overlap here. And that, like, kind of like, oh, again, like, I don't get it, but I feel it, of like, oh, I feel that Scotty Jayro is going to fall head over heels for this fucking story.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how I felt for you.
But yeah, and it's
I was like, this motherfucker's going to love this. Anything else, I don't know. But we're starting off with this for that one reason.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, it's just, you know, there's something to be said for the way that, like, you know, Mitch, myself, Scotty, like, there's a lot of overlap in our media diets. You know, there is a lot of like really big overlap. Like if we were Venn diagrams, there would be more of the circles overlapping than not for the most part.
Yes. Yeah.
But the parts where they don't are radically different. And seeing that, like, these ideas where the overlap is like at its core are so similar, despite the other polar differences that like occupy the other sectors of those three circles. That's just heavy shit, man. And I
like heavy.
There is but that unifying spirit of, you know, the stories that mean the most to us are just all right there as this print pick that I love.
Well, it's also a deeper way to look at yourself and why you gravitate towards these particular types of art. Because I know I could show this to my wife and she'd be like, "Yeah, not for me," and I would know that response to her. I know what she finds comfort in. She doesn't like the existential headiness of a lot of stuff, and I don't blame her because sometimes people struggle with that all day, every day. You know, some people are truly nihilistic, like Shinji becomes. You know, he becomes kind of nihilistic. That like, why even be here? I'm gonna bring nothing to this world. And you know, one thing I gotta ask Mitch. This is very important to me.
Shoot,
Mitch, are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
When it comes to the rebuilds, I know there's some probably parts that you like and don't like about them, because I know it to me, it deviates a little bit from, you know, certain aspects that I do like about, you know, the show. The ending though, at the train station, is that something you liked? And if so, and if you didn't, I want to know your analysis of it. Cause that was the part at the very end, I was like, and it cuts and they like pan up and it's a different version of Japan.
I have this thing in, if you go to Ghibli with Miyazaki as well, Miyazaki and Arno are very personal in their work, obviously. But that train station at the end of the rebuilds is the trains or the station that Arno went to every day going to school.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, whether I don't know how I feel about the ending of that, the train station, but I think just for that, knowing that bit alone, I love it because it just makes it so much more personal to him. So obviously everything, the dude had a mental breakdown making the original show, and then obviously made End of Evangelion, and the reaction to everything with that was the reason why he makes the rebuilds. And just having that personality injected into it is enough for me to like it on its own, like regardless of whether I think it fits or not. I can just separate myself from that. But
emotionally speaking, dude, it worked for me because I've always had those really, really deep thoughts on like, what if I didn't choose this path? Or what if in a different reality, I would be experiencing this person instead? Because then I think we've all had that interaction where you meet maybe someone you have a crush on, or maybe someone you necessarily don't have a crush on, but like there's an instant chemistry and like there's an instant understanding. And like it could be someone you even work with or whatever it is, but like there's an instant moment of like, my soul is comfortable with your soul. And like to see that ending with Ray and Kairu, is that his name?
Kaoru.
You know, they're hanging out. And then you've got, you know, Shinji and he's with the other girl with the big glasses.
Mari.
No.
Yes, big glasses. I meant to say boobs. But they end up together. And honestly, that's the perfect person for Shinji if we're gonna get real deep with it for a second.
I disagree on that.
Okay,
and
so
I said the same fucking thing. I also said Mari.
Okay, I think it's Mari only because she's got everything that she loves unconditionally. And like from her intro on, she has this unconditional love for Shinji, or just like kindness towards Shinji. Whereas Ray's like, I don't know who I am. The entire rebuild series.
Also, I'm your mom. And
also, I'm your mom. This is really
weird. Technically not.
Technically not, but enough is there.
Genetic makeup wise, yes. Soul wise, no.
That makes you
wild
think of words.
delineation that we have to make. No, Scott, I agree with you, and I had a similar thought process getting there, because my take was like Asuka, who was also at the train station on her own in the back, which you know,
far left hand side on her own,
you know, which is a lot visually to take in and just kind of soak in that metaphor. But the reason I like him with Mari is that a lot of what you were saying is that, like, I think, because Asuka even says herself, I can't remember if it's in the rebuild or End of Evangelion, where she's like, you know, this could have been a thing, but you refuse to let it be.
Yeah.
And I think she says it in both, but I think she might say it a bit more on the nose in the rebuilds.
And I think
she's like, I think I had a crush on you at one point, but
oh yeah, she does say that.
And I think that for Shinji, like, it represents him going, okay, I am attracted, and I do find an easy companionship with this, like, with somebody who has like this, like, kind of fiery, pluckiness to them, and they're outgoing and boisterous in all the ways that I am kind of withdrawn and timid. And I think he is attracted to that, but like the issues he was grappling with as a boy in kind of like the cyclical, we will keep having impacts and we will keep human instrumentalitying ourselves until we figure this out. That is the lesson he learned, as to how to be with that type of person and be himself, and let that type of person embolden him and, find that natural chemistry there. And that's part of why I love the train element. I think that we kind of alluded to it at the beginning, and it's kind of a nice full circle moment here, that element of how much this show is about those complicated, messy, oftentimes dark, immature feelings we have as children, as teenagers, becoming adults, can either teach us lessons and teach us to grow beyond them. Or we can kind of become anchored by them for the rest of our fucking life.
Sure. Yeah.
And it will color the rest of our existence in perpetuity. And what I love about the train station and seeing them all as adults and seeing that, like, it feels like the cycle has been broken. There is not going to be another impact. There's not going to be another human instrumentality. We all get to live these normal lives
where
we don't have to fight this bizarre battle of like personhood.
Yeah.
We've let it go. And now we can be mature adults and live a fuller life without having to fight to become who we are and grapple with who are we to the other. And that's why I really like the train station ending, is that I think it is a representation of like, we are kind of like letting go of the shackles of that like adolescent angst. And using angst is kind of I don't want that to sound pithy or like oversimplifying it, but like in a word, angst. And being able to go, I am me, I love the people around me, and I'm ready to grapple with who I am in your eyes and who I am in my own mind, as maybe being different, but learning to like live with that.
Yes.
I really like the train purely because the whole culture over there is you are silent on that train. You do. It's not like in America. I assume in America, where it would be noisy, but like even over here, like kids got their phone blaring music out. Like you just don't do that.
No.
So I think to have that sort of an environment where Shinji is being, he's not the quiet little kid anymore. You've got Mari coming in being all boisterous, and then all the other two. Finding that sort of a connection in that environment, I think really works and fits with Evangelion. The reason why I don't think Shinji should be with Mari is because for me, at least for me anyway, this is my takeaway from the character, because we get nothing of her really, like character-wise.
Yeah, you don't.
She's Asuka without the trauma.
That's exactly what it is.
For me, it should be Asuka at the end, because we get to see Shinji being who he wants to be. We don't get to see Asuka who she wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you get the glimpse of Rei and Kaoru, obviously brother, sister, whatever, because not Rei and Lilith, but Adam and Lilith, right? We don't get that finalization with Asuka as a character.
Mm-mm.
And you could quite easily just go, donk.
Yeah.
With Mari. And it would be no different, apart from, for me anyway, it would work a lot more.
The reason why I prefer, I'm trying to find the way to say this so it isn't me just being the Asuka hater. This isn't me saying I wish bad things for this fictional character.
I mean, you said it enough times, so
fuck you. I hope you're happy, Scotty. There's not a single place I can go on the internet where people aren't fucking doing this shit to me all the time.
That's right. Sorry, bud.
It's the only way to keep my power in check. And again, like I think that Asuka, like, she goes into the final confrontation and everything about her screams somebody, and it makes her compelling, who can't let go, who can't eventually
That's the point of End of Evangelion. She does let go.
That's the point of End of Evangelion, but the cycle starts anew, and that's what I'm saying is that like
but the end of the rebuild I think they're showing identical to the End of Evangelion. I
think what they're trying to show is that this is something that will inherently be more difficult for her always. Always, it is going to have to be a active effort on her part to move in and be vulnerable with this group of people who are unapologetically loving their lives. That is going to be the war of attrition that she has to face. Always is that it is in the same way that like for Shinji and Mari to get together, Shinji had to clearly overcome the less fantastical, I'm trapped in a biblical epic, please help me, elements of his character. Remove the crazy circumstances. He clearly had to get over, oh, geez, and you're really hot, and I don't know how to handle that, and I think I'm going to have a stroke, and I'm just going to stare at the ceiling. He clearly had to overcome that to become partners with Mari. Kaoru had to kind of like let the, weight of the cosmos enigmatic bullshit fall so that he could have a healthy relationship with his sister, who then had to accept, embrace having an identity at all, for that to be the thing. Asuka is defined by like being the person who's kind of the last to the finish line with the Hedgehog's dilemma. Like Shinji is literally on the front line of human instrumentality every time. He is in that crucible, so he can't not learn the lesson by the end.
But Asuka always learns it first. Shinji's always second.
It's always, but it's always a tougher road to hoe for Asuka.
I mean, sure, yeah.
And I think that's why I like that element of like, look at it. I think there's also a hopeful element to that of like, look how far they've all come. Surely she will get to that point too in the future. But I think it is a very real, again, it doesn't have that Star Wars upshot. It's not all 3 Force Ghosts hanging out together or anything like that. It's like, you still have to do the work. These guys have done it. She's still on that path in this iteration of her, but because this is the version of events that are mundane, that are drenched in just, banal humanity and the joys that come with that, she still has a path of her own. And that is why I like it a lot and it resonates with me, plus the Mari stuff.
Plus the what?
Plus Mari being with Shinji.
No. That's fair. I'll disagree. You're always wrong, but
I'm just happy that this show could bring me a new way of thinking about story. And I mean that. And a new way of thinking about editing and how you can put something together in a cohesive way that still builds intrigue and also lingers on the small moments. I'm telling you, like that scene of Asuka and Rey in the elevator is long time. It's like a whole minute of you just going, there's no movement, just sound.
I say there's not one scene that lingers for a minute. The closest you get is 52 seconds.
Which one is it that scene?
It's the one where Shinji's got Kaoru like that. Man.
Oh, wow.
That was also a very funny discussion on Pro and Noob where like it lingers for so long that like whenever there's like the kind of pop and then the sploosh into the water, I thought Shinji just crushed him and dropped him. I didn't realize he like bottle cap style popped his head off, and then that's the head splooshing. That was a funny conversation of Mitch going, "Oh yeah," and his head comes off. I was like, "What the fuck? What?"
But no, I can't thank y'all both enough for letting me come on here and actually analyze this and look at this with y'all, because there's something to be said about getting shown art and anticipating someone's response to it. And sometimes it can be really not good. I mean, I knew Jarod knows me well enough to know that there's some aspects of it that I love, and he was obviously correct that I loved mostly all of it. But there's been times where I've showed my wife, like I've showed her 2001, and she fucking hated that movie. She goes, I just didn't like how slow it was. like a big jerk off session. That's literally just that. It just felt like Stanley Kubrick just jerking himself off. Like, look at what I can do. Look what I can do. Whereas like, it's how you engage with the art, it's just how you engage with it. And like, I am beyond happy to watch this again and come back on and talk about it with y'all in different ways, honestly. Cause this was a great show. And I'm sad I hadn't seen it up until this point, but I'm also kind of happy that I waited. I feel like in my late 20s, this is the right time to watch a show like this. It gives me a little bit of a different outlook.
This is always a show I've always thought it's one of those, it finds you when you need it.
There you go.
That's 100% true.
Always finds you. People always get this show the exact moment they need it.
I needed it.
I said this to Scotty, Mitch. I don't remember if I said this on air, but like, that's absolutely true. I like emotionally, like this show was like a lot of like, really, again, it like the way it makes you look in the mirror was something I needed. And, I don't remember if I've said this on air at all. I think I said it on the KNR Christmas special. But like after, the timeline in which we were recording this, The Acolyte had started, finished, all of the chaos and drama and just watching the internet eat itself over that show in the most disappointing, frustrating way. And then the cancellation and then the fallout from the cancellation. I was just so over fandom. And again, both of there was, and I didn't say anything to y'all in the moment because I didn't want to put anything in writing.
No, because you told me this right at the end.
Yeah. Like, I told Taylor, I was like, I don't think I want to do Nerd Academy anymore. I don't want to be a part of these conversations anymore because clearly there's no fucking point. Clearly there's no fucking point. Like if nobody wants to listen to what this shit is about, then what? Then I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking to myself with other people who get it. I can't sit all these dipshits in a classroom and go, this is the hero's journey, with a fucking pointer stick and like slap somebody with it. I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But going through Pro and Noob and going through Evangelion, I had a moment where I was like, I love talking about art. I love talking about myth. I love talking about and getting into and just getting to the DNA of what a story is about. And like I said, had it not been for Pro and Noob, the Nerd Academy may not exist. Had it not been for Evangelion, I may have hung it up. And I will forever be thankful to Mitch and Evangelion for
that's beautiful.
Giving me that moment to go, oh, wait a minute. Not only am I really good at this, I love doing this. And I actually don't think I want to let go of this. So, of course. Like I said, like this show that we make and that show that we watched in the first season of this show that we make is always going to have a special place in my heart because it, it gave me that, like, don't you dare put this shit down moment, aside from Taylor cussing at me a lot that she wouldn't let me give it up either. But
see, that's the thing.
The story helps.
I love that you said that, Jarod, because a lot of these things, and Mitch as well, like they find you when you need it most. And like, you and I get in those moments where like, and I love all the Star Wars projects and all the Marvel projects. And I always like, oh, well, that's where I expected it to go. You know what I mean? Like I knew, when I saw the new Captain America, I'm like, I loved it. I thought it was great. That's exactly where I expected it to go. You know what I mean? Even with a movie like Infinity War, like we all kind of knew it was going to end on a low note. We didn't know how low we'd feel or how they would end it, but we knew we wouldn't walk out there feeling victorious. This show is one of the few times where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to feel when this is all said and done. And all I knew is it was the art of it all that got me through it, that made me fall in love with like thinking about things a different way and how you can do something creatively without having to risk the story at all. You just make it part of the story. This show found me in a very good spot of like, I'm in a creative flux, musically and artistically. And this show just did it. It did it. It gave me a new sensibility of like what you can do with story or myth or, storytelling. And yeah, Mitch, thank you for forcing Jarod to watch it. And then in turn, him forcing me. It's a beautiful cycle. I need to force this upon someone else.
It's my purpose. You'll have a really good feed. Jarod can attest to this. When you show someone this show and they like it as much as you do, there's no better feeling than that.
Well, thank you. I'm part of the lineage.
Carry on passing it on. No.
I'm going to need to just text you now and be like, what the hell is that about?
And I watched it again. I'm 1,000 different video essays. I can explain it better than I ever could. They're all 8 hours long. But
fellas, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, man.
These thoughts and these emotions have been sitting in my head for seriously like 3 months now. And the fact that I could let them escape and they were coherent and they weren't as confusing as that show was, then it's great. We did it.
Did Jarod ever tell you about the Far?
I don't think
the first ancestral race.
No.
You didn't tell him.
Bro, I can't explain this shit. You can't? You think I can? You think I'm starting Evangelion Explained tomorrow?
All you gotta do is just say aliens made the aliens, and there was 7 of them, and one.
I also can't remember all those names. That's what I was saying earlier with like the lowercase g, like fucking
odds.
I mean, it's not important because we found that out in a video game and nothing else, but it's fine. Yeah.
Crucial information is in a video game nobody played. Welcome to Star Wars.
That's right.
Crucial information is very, very subjective on a crucial part, but yeah.
Else we found out. I would say I think we're clocking in at the longest episode of Pro and Noob.
Oh yeah, we are way past the longest one.
I knew it would be the case.
But I will say though, because I know you said you're watching stuff in the lead up to Celebration in Japan. If you watch are you watching all the Miyazaki movies, the Ghibli ones?
So that's on it. So these are my next steps, and I'm off because I'm off this week, right? I'm working on my panel slideshow right now. I'm about the 25% mark. My goal is to finish it. I mean, once we get off this call, I'm going to work on it a little bit. Then tomorrow and Wednesday, I really want to work on it. Then I'm going to do my errands on Thursday and Friday. But depending on what my wife's got planned, if I can sit down and watch a movie, I want to watch a couple of Japanese movies, a couple of Miyazaki movies. I want to watch, what's his name? Kurosawa. Like there's some I just haven't digested. And the fact that I got to fit this particular, anime in before going to Japan, I feel satisfied because it felt very Japanese. And just the feeling of it all felt Japanese, not even just like aesthetically. Like, I don't know. It kind of gave me a better understanding of like culturally, why there's a lot of depressed people in Japan, because like you're in Japan, the individuality is not as identifiable, right? In America, we're all taught we're special, perfect, unique little babies, and you have big rooms dedicated to your love. Like look at our space. Literally, all 3 of us are the perfect representation of like the Western world, thinking of like you are your own person. Yeah, and in Japan, it's like, well, no, you need to be silent, most of the time. The only time you should be able to be loud and reflective is whenever you're at home or you're doing karaoke, and like your whole demeanor is meant to be, you're supposed to let society work and function, even if you feel outcasted by it. And that was an analysis I never considered, because I mean, since we were a young age, all of us are in the same age bracket. You're kind of told a certain thing, and you're meant to think a certain thing, and to challenge those preconceived notions is a difficult thing to do. And Star Wars doesn't really help with that. Star Wars kind of enables you're your own person, go out and mess stuff up and change the world and, make mistakes. Whereas this show's almost the entire opposite of it. Like the trauma you were given as a child still is deep within you, and what you choose to do with it is essentially what makes you who you are, but you still got to be quiet about that. Not everyone can be an Oscar, but Oscar was also German. That's one very important thing. She is raised in the same exact way of you're an individual, whereas every other character kind of has to be more subdued. And culturally speaking, I think this show did help me understand the Japanese more. And when my trip to Japan happens, and hopefully Jared's there in some capacity, we can experience that and see this. And I know it's heavily praised. There's like slot machines of this game, and there's like of the show, and there's like
the pachinko machines have lore.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait because I saw a reel of that. But anyway, no, I really can't thank you enough for like both of you for letting me indulge, because to watch something as big as and intense as this was and not have an outlet to put it out, I feel bad for a lot of people that have to just go to Reddit. But like the fact that you've all watched it, and even the listeners or viewers watching right now have experienced it, it's amazing. It's actually pretty incredible that a show can speak to us people in a Western world, even though it's not necessarily meant for us. And we can still find themes that are human and we identify with but it's very beautiful. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say, if you watch anything and you want to talk about it, you are more than welcome to come back.
If you
watch like Spirited Away and you want to come back, you are more than welcome to come back.
If you want to do pro and noob, and I'll be pro, we'll talk about midichlorians, dog. I can do that. I'll be pro and you
Scotty
be noob.
is now the second person in our sphere who said, I know the show's about anime, but I want to do it about this thing I like.
I'm telling you, I can change your mind. I don't even know if you like him or not, Mitch, but I can change your mind on him.
I have no deep feelings one way or the other in midichlorians.
I will give you deep feelings about them and have you not think about them the same again.
There's a reason why I asked if your panel is getting streamed, because I want to watch it.
Oh,
have you seen Scotty's initial video essay?
I think I have, but I have the memory of a sieve.
It's 2 hours long. It's a hell of a listen, but it's one of those ones you can put on while you play video games, and you can actually get something out of it too. So,
I'll check it out before Celebration, but that's if I haven't watched it already. Even though if I have, I'll probably rewatch it. So,
well, Mitch, I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me be this guest on the show.
I appreciate you for coming on.
This has been a blast, hands down, been a blast. I would love to come back and talk about Miyazaki and anything else as well. Seriously.
Because I think you'll get a lot out of the Ghibli movies. Mm-hmm. You'll get a lot. Because there's my favorite one, Spirited Away. The last person I showed that.
Oh, I love Spirited Away.
Oh, you've already seen it?
Yeah, I've seen Spirit. I've seen like 6 of them. I've seen Ponyo, Spirited Away. Totoro's my favorite. That one just
great movie. Yeah.
Oh my god.
We just did Mononoke.
Oh, I haven't watched Mononoke. I need to watch what's the Boy and the Heron? Did I already say that one? I don't remember.
Boy and the Heron's a great movie, yeah.
That one's really good. What's the one with the cat? Kiki's Delivery Service?
Yeah.
I saw that one. House Moving Castle. So I think those are the ones I've seen, but like they all speak to you in different ways. But Spirited Away is the one that just makes your eye candy. You know what I mean? It's just eye candy. And Totoro to me has the best theme. Do 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 do. Japanese music. Let's do it, man. Oh my god, especially that era. 85 to 95. There's something about that. Anyway, I need to stop talking.
So when I get Jarod around to Spirited Away, we might bump that after Akira.
Oh,
because I pushed back Akira for Mononoke.
That's good.
So we'll get you back for Spirited Away, because I just want to talk about that movie.
Let's do it.
Fantastic film.
Beautiful. All right, Mitch, I'll let you do outros because I keep accidentally starting to and then remembering that you're in the host seat tonight.
No, you do the outro.
I say I had my turn in the host seat when we talked about Tartakovsky Clone Wars.
No, you do the outro now.
As my little treat for surviving Evangelion. Obviously, you guys are here. Mitch692 YouTube channel. That's where you can find this guy's work. Obviously, pro and noob and some video game talk and stuff like that. Yeah. So stick around here for more of that. You can find me over at the Nerd Academy Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. We're moving into Daredevil Born Again season, so we're going to be covering that week to week. I'm very excited for Daredevil. Like I said earlier, we just got out our Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man review, as well as a very delayed review of Skeleton Crew. That was all my fault that it was so delayed. The moment I was like, okay, we can actually do this, I got a nasty fucking flu, and that fucked everything up. And then Ionized Bastards is in its 3rd and final season. We got 3 episodes out so far. Mitch, I don't know if you're caught up yet.
I have no. I want to do it this weekend. I completely forgot I would do. Well, it'll be the weekend just gone by the time people hear this. But I had a bit of a family thing, so I had to completely.
No worries at all. I just know the last time you spoke, you said you were like a little bit into the second episode, so I won't say anything too in depth. All I will say is that in the third episode, the wheels fall the fuck off.
Oh, I haven't finished it. I can't wait.
We are cooked. Shit got real scary, real fast, and I'm waiting to record again because I'm afraid for all of our safety. And then epic confrontations on the Star Wars in a Galaxy channel. The Star Wars Trivia League, myself and Scotty's a part-timer in. A very fun, I'm not sure when it's going to be out. We did a very fun 4-person match with a very unique match format. Scotty watched it as it was taping. Very fun match format. Very fun match format. I'm very much hoping that Eli does more of these in the future, just because it was a very fun match type. So you guys stay tuned for that. And as a little bit of sizzle for epic confrontations, even though Eli probably doesn't want me to say this summer, round 3. Who's ready for the third impact?
If you don't make it to Celebration, do you lose by default?
No. Because Eli is going to be traveling. Fuck you, Bo.
Yes, actually. Yes.
No.
Is that why you're that desperate to go?
No. Scotty and I decided that doing it in Japan would probably not be feasible, and then Eli also ended up with other obligations during that weekend anyway. So I'll just say it. Currently, the plan is for Scotty to come to Pittsburgh over the summer, and we did our first one-on-one match in his home. The second one-on-one match will be happening in this very room, and there's going to be a lot on the line.
I'm telling him that, I'm just saying I'm going to show up in Latrobe, but you just never know. I might not. I might just goof on him the entire time and just never show up.
Please do.
I offered to buy this man's plane ticket and let him stay in my house for as long as he wants.
What if I just don't and I just fly to Chicago instead?
In fairness, buying a plane ticket now is a bit risky, right?
I will drive to Chicago and beat you and Trey up. I will throw you in that dirty ass river. But yeah, so Dark Jedi v Jayro 3 coming soon to a YouTube channel near you. But yeah, we'll see. And then don't big dick me. Don't big dick me. Come on. But yeah, Scotty, your plugs again, please.
I'm Scotty Jayro. Happy to be here with both of you. Had a blast. Need to get Mitch on BOMBADcast, but the BOMBADcast airs. We go live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I don't know when this recording is coming out, but this Thursday, March 7th, I believe is maybe March.
This would be out the Monday after.
Yeah,
Monday after. So if you're looking at it, this March 6th, as I said in the past, we'll be live from Chili's and Applebee's. So we're going to sneak our phones into Chili's and Applebee's. We're going to act like we're on a FaceTime call, but we're actually on a live stream. And so we'll be eating our Chili's and ordering our food and drinks and beverages and just talk Star Wars from Chili's and Applebee's respectively. So that is that's not a joke. That's legitimately what we're going to do. So
see, I love when Scotty earlier was talking about the version of me and my mom and my dad and my students and my friends is all different.
Our fans.
And I'm like, yeah, Scotty, I don't think your mother thinks of you as this surrealist Andy Kaufman, but he talks about fucking Jar Jar Binks, guy. I don't think that crosses anybody's mind except for all of the people who it's the Andy Kaufman bullshit. We're gonna go to Chili's and talk about midi-chlorians. It's the Campbell obsession. It's the fucking Paul Stanley of it all, the sheer non sequitur that is it's all Star Wars, and then Kiss, that's a version of you that exists in a select number of people's minds that I'm sure that I'm sure like your fucking mother has never conceptualized.
No, not possible.
Like Andy Kaufman, but Star Wars fan.
But like, here's the thing, though. That's part of the great mystery, isn't it? Congratulations.
Which Scotty is sitting on that train?
Congratulations.
Which Scotty is sitting on that train looking at him? Scott Jayro. On the inside, that's Paul fucking Stanley.
No, but all that being said, check out my panel. I sent Jared the thumbnail of the actual panel on his email. Yeah, check out my panel. It's going to be, I almost gave something away. I'm so glad I didn't. I've got buttons right here. If you happen to be in Japan, they are midichlorians are BOMBAD buttons with my face on it. There is also an exclusive card that says the exact same thing with a QR code on it. And in Japanese text, BOMBAD alive. But yeah, I got all kinds of cool things in the works. I have a really big reveal at the end of the panel that I cannot give away right now. But literally no one knows about it except for me and my own.
I don't know shit.
Yeah, if he has no idea, and it is a big deal for me personally. But all that being said, no one's pregnant. Everyone's like, "Is someone pregnant?" I told this to Alden. He's like, "Is someone pregnant?" No, that is not the case. Nothing like that. But anyway. Thank you both very much.
Absolutely.
I had an absolute honor doing this, and I can't wait to come back and teach Mitch about midichlorians.
Scotty, do you have a message for the class at the end here?
Stay BOMBAD, people!
My voice.
Excuse me.